Hello, my name is Dan and I like beer. The trouble is, I've liked beer a little too much in recent years. And so just over half a year ago, I decided to cut down. 2 evenings per week instead of the previous 4 or 5. It felt good. It felt good that I was giving my body and my brain a bit more rest from alcohol each week, and the Friday and Saturday beers felt more earned. I appreciated them more, but it was still a lot. So I would tend to consume on average 6 strong pints of beer on both those nights, which is a total of 36 units of alcohol per week as measured here in the UK. And that is over 2.5 times the recommended weekly allowance on UK guidelines. So, just over a month ago, I took things a step further. I joined Whoop's Sober October Challenge, and I actually went a full 6 weeks without drinking any alcohol. This is what happened to my mood, my weight, my blood pressure, my resting heart rate, my heart rate variability, my sleep, my productivity, and my exercise habits. A little later in this video, I'm going to be talking to an expert about how my key health metrics changed without alcohol. Spoiler alert, not all of them went in the right direction, but most were drastically better. Just before I get onto the stats and the health metrics though, I thought I'd let you know how it felt. I mean, this is obviously an N=1 study, but hopefully you'll find it interesting. Some of you will already have done this, others might be contemplating it or just be intrigued. So anyway, weekend 1 felt quite difficult. I went to the pub with Lorraine and some mates and sipped on alcohol-free beers. Actually, technically, they were 0.5% alcohol, so I did calculate that if I had 10 of them, that would equate to 1 normal beer. I didn't have 10, but that did cross my mind as I lusted after the full-fat beer staring at me from behind the bar. Weekend 2 was a little easier, and by weekend 3, it already felt quite normal. The usual mental countdown to Friday beers had all but gone, but I was still going out, albeit generally heading home earlier than I would do normally, which is no bad thing. At the end of the month, I had got so used to it that I decided to continue a bit longer, finally having my first alcoholic beverage on the 8th of November. How did that feel? I'm going to tell you later on. Now, in terms of my state of mind, I wouldn't say there were any dramatic changes, but that in part is probably because I didn't feel bad before. I rarely get hangovers or any kind of brain fog, at least I didn't think I did. However, what I did find was that I was far more productive on a Saturday and Sunday morning. I had more motivation to get up and do stuff as opposed to staying in bed. And as such, it was my biggest month of exercise for a long time. I've actually been sad enough to crunch the numbers on a spreadsheet, and in October I spent 25% more time exercising than I'd averaged the previous 6 months, which is when I started this journey to getting healthier and fitter. A couple of other things that I've noticed. Firstly, I'm going to bed earlier and getting up earlier. I would say that on average I've been waking up at 6 a.m. and the lights are normally out well before 10. Secondly, I have realised how much alcohol is involved in things that I'm looking forward to. As in, I've been very much looking forward to events because they involve alcohol. By the same token, I also think that's why I've been going to bed earlier. There doesn't seem as much point in staying up if I'm not drinking. So that is definitely something I need to work on, because I should absolutely be looking forward to things that don't involve alcohol, and I shouldn't see alcohol as the only reason not to go to bed. That's utterly ridiculous. I would also say that I have procrastinated less. I seem to get more things done way before the deadline for doing them, which is something I do normally struggle with. And although I've said I don't experience brain fog with alcohol consumption, I did find I was less forgetful. Tasks and things on my mental to-do list seem to spring to the forefront of my mind more often. Have I enjoyed it? I'm going to let you know that later on as well. But first up, I'm going to talk to Dr. Kristen Holmes. She is the head of global performance, principal scientist at Whoop. And as you can tell from that job title, She is a very busy woman, so I am very appreciative that she's taken some time to analyse my data. I'm going to start by just asking what the main headlines are, really. You know, I went to do Sober October, I did Sober October, I started actually a little bit before the start of the month, and I went a week into November, so it was just under 6 weeks in total. You know, I could see some differences myself, but it'd be nice to hear from the horse's mouth, so to speak, on how big the differences were.
Yeah, well, there were massive changes in your resting physiology, clinically significant changes, which is cool to see. You know, when you just compare basically your month of October to an average of your previous 3 months, looking at resting heart rate, for example, you know, your average resting heart rate was 52 beats per minute, and that's with drinking. And there are, you know, a lot of other variables that we were not able to control for necessarily. But, you know, this experiment was basically you were drinking July, August, and September. And then the experimental time frame was, of course, the month of October when you weren't drinking. So during that control phase, you know, you're drinking alcohol and your resting heart rate was 52 beats per minute. And during the month of October, your average resting heart rate was 46 beats per minute. That's like the average resting heart rate of what would be like a 26-year-old. Okay. So, you know, you're a 44-year-old male. So, you know, that you think about like just how that actually decreases your biological age potentially, right? Like, and there's lots of different, you know, biological markers that you would, you know, factor in when you're looking at your biological age, but resting heart rate is kind of a big one, right? Because we know it ladders up to all-cause mortality.
Yeah, I did notice that it took quite some time to go down. So during October, I noticed it took, you know, it went down to what I saw as my baseline, a sort of 46, 47, maybe a 45. But towards the end of October and start of November, it got down to 43 for a couple of nights in a row. So it seems like it takes quite a long time for it to completely get out of your system and to reset almost, recalibrate.
Recalibration, you know, your body has to get used to sleeping differently. Your body, you know, you're like everything about a body that has poison in it versus a body that doesn't is different, right? So I think to your point, that recalibration is not just on, you know, things that you can perceive, but things that are happening at, you know, like your cognitive and your physical abilities, but things that are happening actually on a cellular level. So I think that's when it gets really interesting, right? Like you're basically, by abstaining from alcohol, you're creating a situation internally that is safe, right? Like alcohol creates a really unsafe internal environment and causes a lot of friction in terms of the ability of your cells to communicate with each other. And in that lack of communication, and oftentimes the miscommunication between cells, is really the basis for aging and the basis for disease. You know, alcohol is basically, it's water and fat soluble. So what happens is it doesn't just like attach to the receptors of the cells, it actually penetrates the membrane and gets inside the cell. Once it's inside the cell, it gets converted to acetaldehyde. And acetaldehyde, of course, is just a toxin. It's poisonous, right? So it's essentially poisoning the inside of the cells. So that can really explain all of the negative effects that come with alcohol, what we know as like hangover and, you know, all of the symptoms associated with your body trying to clear the poison, you know, out of the kidneys.
In terms of sleep, again, no surprise that I slept better. You know, in part that was because I was tending to go to bed more consistently, like even at the weekends where I'd normally stay out. I know that's a big thing of yours, the consistency.
I know, I talk about that all the time.
One of the things that I noticed was that I think I got less restorative sleep on average per day through October than I was the previous 6 months on average. Would that be because my body had less to recover from because I wasn't putting it through the same thing?
So your restorative sleep on nights that you're drinking and the 2 nights after is well below the average of what we would want for you. What we consider is probably healthy restorative sleep. So I think what you're seeing is basically you end up in your body ends up, even though you're spending decent time in bed, you're not getting that restorative sleep. So what happens, you end up overcompensating and dropping in, you'll go from like 18% sleep efficiency on drinking nights. You get through that period, the body, the alcohol gets out of your system. And then on that fourth day, you're dropping in at 55% because your body is so deprived of, REM and slow wave sleep that it just, to your point, kind of overcompensates and ends up spending, extra time to kind of make up for that lost period of sleep. And you can't really make up for it per se, because when you're not dropping into those deeper stages of sleep, certain genes aren't turning on, right? And it doesn't mean they're going to doubly turn on 4 days from now when you're making up for it, right? So when I say make up for lost sleep, take that with a grain of salt.
I was going to ask you a more general question. So I think a lot of people watching this they'll say, well, Dan's drinking 6 strong beers per night. It's quite extreme. But I only have a glass of red wine 5 nights a week or 4 nights a week or whatever it might be. What would you expect with someone who only occasionally drinks, and when they do, it's not as many units as me? Would you expect to see anything similar if they went from, let's say, 4 glasses of red wine per week to none?
You'll see improvements for sure. And it's really the big key is how close to bed is that glass of wine. And it doesn't sound, and most glasses of wine are not 4 ounces, right? Or 6, they're usually somewhere around 7 to 8 ounces, right? So it's like it's a pretty big glass of wine, right? And if it's within 2 hours of bedtime, it's going to meaningfully impair sleep. Just 1 glass. So, and the older you get, the worse it gets for you. I think we say, just 1 glass of wine, but we see in the data, like it does have a statistically significant impact on resting physiology. It's just 1 glass within 2 hours of bedtime. 1 glass within 2 hours of bedtime. So if you want to make, improvements, that is the quick to your cardiovascular functioning and your capacity to, bring it in the gym and, just more consistent energy levels. That is a quick way, a quick win, easy.
One of the things I didn't touch upon with Kristen then was my blood pressure, because that is not a Whoop metric. However, I took it myself pretty much every day through late September, all the way through October, and at the start of November. I'll give you the results of that because they were really quite striking for me. So at the end of September and through the first week of October, my average blood pressure was 133/79. Not awful, but also not ideal. So the ideal blood pressure is to have 120 or below on the systolic upper number and 80 or below on the lower number, which is the diastolic. However, I did then start to see quite a significant change around a week or 10 days after I'd stopped drinking alcohol. So if I then take the average blood pressure I had from the 7th of October through to the 2nd of November, that was 120/68. And I was quite systematic in my measurement of it. I'd sit down and relax for 5 minutes, take it once, rest another 5 minutes, take it again, rest another 5 minutes and take it again, and then take the average of those 3. Wasn't always done at the exact same time every day, but I would estimate that in those 2 periods, the average time of day I took it was roughly the same. But in summary, with the data, in October, I didn't have a single day in the red. My average heart rate variability increased by 30%. My resting heart rate decreased by 12%, my sleep performance increased by 10%, and my blood pressure came down too. All those were versus September. Pretty conclusive then, really. The data doesn't lie. Almost all of my metrics went in the right direction, significantly in the right direction. For those interested, we're going to put a couple of links in the description below this video. One is to the spreadsheet that I kept from late September through October and the start of November, and the other is to Whoop data from the past few months. With both, you can see in black and white what the effects were on my sleep, recovery, and general health. One of the things on that spreadsheet is my weight, which I haven't discussed yet. So I weighed myself regularly throughout October, and from the start of not having alcohol to the day I drank again, my weight was roughly the same. And if anything, it went up, particularly in the middle of the month for some reason. However, I should caveat this by saying that I didn't want to lose weight. I'm actually currently trying to gain some muscle, and so whilst I'm eating healthily, I am trying to keep a decent number of calories coming in each day. But also on weight, I really think it's a personal thing. Despite all the calories in beer and the so-called empty calories of alcohol, my weight has always remained quite stable, even during my years of very heavy drinking. But I know there are a lot of people who pile the pounds on when they drink, so I guess I'm fortunate that I don't. One of the reasons for that could be that I rarely snack when I'm drinking. I'm not the sort of person who craves crisps or nuts or chips or a kebab when I'm on the beers. The pints of lager just seem to fill me up enough. But it could also just be a genetic thing as well. My family are all what you could describe as skinny. Right then, time to answer that question. Did I enjoy it? Well, it saved me money, so that's a positive. But in all seriousness, I think I did enjoy it, but I couldn't tell you exactly why. I kind of like the routine of it, the routine it allowed me to get the rest of my life into. It was also nice to be able to drive to and from social occasions rather than thinking how we were going to get there and back. And I did enjoy my newfound ability to get things done without procrastinating. Did I miss alcohol? No, not really, which is weird because I really enjoy drinking with mates and have done for about a quarter of a century at this point. But I found that abstaining very quickly became the new norm in the same way that daily exercise has become a new norm for me since I made a few changes earlier this year. Habits don't seem to take long to form, whether they're good ones or bad. Right, my first beer back then. I am just about to have my first beer for 6 weeks. 5 weeks and 6 days to be precise. It is a Hackney Boogie Van beer or something. There we go. There's Lorraine, waiting for me to drink again. Thought I'd document it because I'm sure you're all very interested. So here we go. First one. He's pissed. It's good. I am about to have my first beer since 20 minutes ago. Second one. Exactly, yeah. We're doing that tomorrow. And I'm going to have triple d'Anvers. I have lost count of how many beers in I am. 6. Beer number 10. That was actually a bit of a strange experience. I think I had a slight fear in my head. Firstly, a fear that I'd be completely drunk and incoherent after 2 pints. And secondly, that I would have lost what I stupidly see as the superpower of not getting a hangover. What actually happened was that I felt great after 2 pints, but probably not quite so good a few drinks on from that. My problem is, and always has been, that once I start, I don't tend to stop. And the next morning, all good, thankfully. I managed to get myself up fairly early and go and do the park run. Right, I'm going to answer a couple of questions now that I think you might have. Firstly, how did I go about doing it? Well, I didn't do anything special. I didn't do that thing of throwing out all the alcohol from the house or pouring it down the drain. I'd made a plan to do Sober October back in April, so I had a long build up to it, and when I put my mind to something, there's not much that gets in the way of me keeping to the goal. I'd also say that it's probably a little easier to abstain at my age and in my specific situation. Firstly, I'm just not going out as much as I was in my 30s or 20s, so there's less temptation. Secondly, my wife Lorraine doesn't drink much, so it's not as though I had to resist the temptation to join in with her. Thirdly, I don't live in a city, so I'm not walking past bars and restaurants or anything like that on my way home. And lastly, I don't have many friends, so I'm not getting pestered to go out. I'm joking, partly. But on that point, I have seen a few things on social media that say, you find out who your real friends are when you quit alcohol. And by that, I think they mean that when you quit, the people that don't keep in touch with you or that you don't keep in touch with are not real friends. They're just drinking buddies that will drop you like a stone if you go sober. I'm calling bullshit on that. As in, it makes drinkers sound like awful, shallow people. But I would say that this situation applies to anything. there is a commonality between people. If you're a long-time cyclist and you suddenly stop cycling, there's a good chance that over time you're going to lose touch with some of your cycling friends. That doesn't mean they're sad, shallow human beings. It would be the same with golf or netball or even work colleagues when you move jobs. If you move on from something that was a big part of your life, your social network is likely to change. Right, what's next? Well, I'm going to contradict myself here slightly. By that, I mean that I am planning on having more weeks and weekends without alcohol, and I'm planning on having more extended periods without it as well. I'll do dry January, and I might even carry on through February. Why is that contradicting myself? Because earlier on in this video, I said I didn't feel hugely different without alcohol than with, but there must be a subconscious benefit going on if I'm considering continuing down this track. Obviously, there's the very clear result of better health. My metrics are looking a lot better. And as I mentioned in my previous video about alcohol, all the evidence suggests that it's bad for you in any form or any quantity. Anyway, I do want to change my relationship with alcohol so that it's not a regular Friday and Saturday thing week in, week out. How that looks, I haven't really figured out just yet, but I will do so. Also, I've read in lots of places and listened to lots of people who say you need to try it for a few months to really see what the differences and benefits are, so I'd also like to give that a go. Now, this is normally the part where I tell you how my journey to fitness and health is going, but I'm not going to this time. Why? Because in 2 weeks' time, you'll be able to see all the results of everything I've changed over the last 7 months. As I record this, I've actually already retaken the health and fitness test that I did back in March, so stay tuned for that video, which will be released on GCN on Saturday the 30th of November, so 2 weeks from now. Right, let me know your thoughts on alcohol and abstinence from it. I know there are a lot of strong opinions on both sides with this, but I'm always interested to read those opinions, and I know a lot of viewers are too. So let me know your thoughts and experiences in the comments section just down below. And just before I go, if you've enjoyed this video, it would make a big difference to us if you could share it with friends or family that you think would be interested. And if you really enjoyed it, there is now the option of giving us a super thanks. You'll find that icon just below this video. Thanks everyone, cheers, and see you in a fortnight.